All right, let's say hello now to our next guest. There's a lot of attention this weekend. UFC 261, three title fights, of course, Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman at the very top of the bill. But this main card is extremely interesting, if you ask me. You also have Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute, and you also have a rematch that is 11 years, almost 11 years in the making. The Battle of New York going down in Jacksonville. We've got Uriah Hall, who's on quite the winning streak as well, against the man himself, the former UFC middleweight champion, looking to make it two in a row. Our old friend, Chris Weidman. Chris, how are
That's
you?
right. I'm good. How are you, Ariel?
I'm doing great. There's so much to talk to you about. First, let's get the most important thing out of the way. This fight was supposed to happen in February. Unfortunately, you got COVID. How are you feeling? Any lasting, lingering effects from it?
Yeah, no, I was good. It was 2 days kind of sucked, and then I stayed. I didn't work out and do anything until 2 weeks later, and just having 2 weeks off because I was told those those effects that last for a long time happen a lot if you're training through it. So I didn't want any issues, and so I was on the antibiotics, and I just tried to do everything right. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, I tried to jump in back into camp, and it was too much. And then UFC, we postponed it, and I just kind of expected to get like 2 or 3 weeks, time, and then get the fight, and then they postponed it, a couple of months, but it ended up working out really well because I stayed in shape. My father-in-law ended up passing, so just timing wise, I was able to, focus on some things, but also like focus on like family matter type stuff, and then also continue staying in shape and just get better and better.
And I'm very sorry about your father-in-law. I know we spoke about it a little bit privately, so we don't have to, go too deep into that now. And I know your wife very close to her father. How is the family doing after? Because my understanding was a pretty traumatic accident, correct?
Yeah, he was crossing the street going to my gym. He was a big fan of the guys at the gym, and he was very supportive, going to all their fights from the amateurs to the pros. And he was there, watching Marab spar and stuff, and he was crossing the street, got stuck in the median, and he forgot his mask. He went to pat his legs, went to turn
Oh
to go
my.
back to his car, and there was a car actually pulling up. One of the kids from the gym was dropped. Well, one of the guys from the gym was dropping off one of his kids for private lessons, and he clipped him. Thank God there was footage, so you could see it was completely accidental. There was nobody who did anything wrong. So it was easy to put that to rest. You didn't have to, we didn't have to get all crazy. And it was just super traumatic situation for everybody. And he was just a great guy. He was at every single one of my fights. And we miss him a lot.
I'm so sorry. That is. I mean, any death is horrendous, but that is an incredible set of circumstances. In addition to that, last time I spoke to you, you were in your backyard after the Omari Akhmedov fight, and you were getting set to start packing because you guys were moving to South Carolina. Now, of course, you're in South Carolina. What has it been like? I mean, Mr. New York, Mr. Long Island. Now, I see you on Instagram all day, loving life. It appears in the South. How has it been?
It's been absolutely just beautiful. We love it. For the family, it's absolutely perfect. We live in almost like a Pleasantville type neighborhood where the kids get to run around almost like old school, where, they see you later until, it starts getting dark and you're back home, and, they're running in and out all the kids are running in and out of our house, and just all the kids have great friends. They're living the dream out here. Great people. And yeah, I never thought I was going to leave Long Island. But we kind of moved here for more family reasons. My sister doesn't live too far away. My parents were going to be moving out, which they're going to be moving out. I think, I'm not sure exactly when yet, but soon. I have a bunch of family out in Charlotte. I have some more family and cousins that are moving in literally to the same neighborhood as me. So we have the family is all kind of relocating down here, and it's a beautiful place to live. I'm in Fort Mill, South Carolina. It's 10 minutes from Charlotte. 20 minutes from the airport. It's awesome. And I moved down here really just for family, but it ended up being like a great place for training too. Back in New York, obviously I got Ray and Matt and my team with the Saralongo squad, but we didn't really have that many big guys for me. And when I came out here, I just expected I was going to be going back to New York for camp, but it just ended up being a blessing in disguise where there's some great big guys for me to work out with, some up and coming wrestlers that are now transferring over to MMA and getting ready to begin their careers. So you get that young energy. Back in Long Island, there was really me and Volante, maybe one or two other guys, and Volante's, I'm pretty sure he's going to be finished now. And so it just worked out for the best in almost every area of life. Like there's nothing that I'm really missing from Long Island, and I love Long Island, but it was time to move.
So for this fight on Saturday, who will be in your corner?
So Matt's not going to be in my corner. He's taking a break on cornering. I know you know some of that stuff because it was public. But Ray's going to be in my corner. Wonder Boy's going to be in my corner, and this young up and coming wrestler, Division I All-American. This kid, his name's Tom Lane. He wrestled at Cal Poly. He's actually from Long Island. I would train with him all the time out there. Anytime he was back home from school, and he happened to just move out here around the same time I moved out here. So just another great training partner.
So is this the first time in your career that Matt's on your corner?
No, I don't know if it's the first. I think maybe once or maybe one other time. I have to really think about it. Maybe one other time or two other times, like just if there was some type of conflict, scheduling conflict or something for his family. But it's definitely, well, he wasn't in my corner for my last fight. So there you go. Akhmedov, when I fought Akhmedov, because of COVID, I needed my workout partners. He was super closed off. So it kind of ruined that. But obviously I got to respect, but I love Matt. I'm going to miss him. He's such a great coach, a great cornerman. So, I wish he could be there, but he needs to do what he's got to do.
Did you try to convince him or not really?
Yeah, I tried, but I spoke to him about it. We spoke for about a half an hour. He actually right before his podcast even came out. And I understood where he was coming from, and he wasn't. He definitely needs a little time.
When this fight was on the verge of being put together, was Uriah Hall, and we'll get into the history in a second, but just 2021 Uriah Hall, was he on your radar? Like post Akhmedov, did you feel like this was a fight that made sense for you and him? Was this someone that you thought they might present to you?
Not really. It just wasn't, for whatever reason, wasn't one of the names I was thinking. I was trying to get that fight with Brunson. And they ended up, hitting me up about Uriah Hall. I'm like, all right, yeah, you know what? I'm excited about that. I'm excited because I know it's a big fight for him. I know he has to be super motivated because it was his first loss. And that just excites me, knowing that he's going to be super motivated. He's going to want to, beat me. And I'm just not going to let that happen. I just feel that I'm resisting the hell out of that. So I can't let him have that back. And, we fought. It's just such a long history between me and him. And it's pretty cool. It's like a cool story.
It's an amazing story. So for those that don't know, you were 2-0. He was 4-0. Ring of Combat, your middleweight debut, massive fight on the East Coast. You were two of the biggest prospects at middleweight in the entire country, if not the world. And you go in there and beat him. This is 2010, September of 2010 to be exact. You go in and beat him. Your stock continues to rise. He eventually makes it to the UFC. This is all part of your journey to the UFC. It was a really big deal. What do you remember? I believe it happened in Atlantic City, if memory serves me correct.
Exactly.
What do you remember from all of that?
So it was the Ring of Combat Championship. He was the champion, and at that time, he was knocking out everybody he fought, and I was dominating everybody I fought. I submitted everybody. I had a submission in TKO, and they were billing it as the winner of that fight was going to go to the UFC. So it was just a huge fight for me, and I was prepared. I was coming off of a hand surgery where I was kind of out for almost a year. And I still really couldn't punch in my right hand. So the training camp was a lot of left hooks and stuff. And so I really just focused on that and my wrestling. And because otherwise at that time I was making no money. I was living in my parents' basement. And, I just needed to get a fight in. Otherwise I was going to have to change careers. So I took the fight with him, and I knew that possibly taking me to the UFC. And I remember there was a girl who hit me up because we were the two biggest names in New York at middleweight, and we were both, my camp felt like I was unbeatable. His camp felt like he was unbeatable. He belonged to Tiger Showman's at that time, which they have, I think, almost 30 schools, or maybe even more than that, in the tri-state area. So I knew a bunch of people who did karate there since they were kids and stuff like that. And I remember getting a message from somebody on Facebook, this girl who I went to high school with, and she was just like, Chris, I love you, but I just want you to know, he's a very dangerous person. Like, please be careful. Please be careful. And I'm like, I just remember seeing that message, like, what? Like, do you know who you're talking to? Like, because I'm not as intimidating, I guess, as him. And,
Right.
when you're in that martial art background, you could kind of blow people out of proportion. And he is great, and, but there's levels to the game, obviously. And I just remember being so motivated to go out there and to show people he's good, but I think I'm a different level of good. And yeah, it was a big one. There was, a lot of fans there for him, a lot of fans there for me. There was a lot of, back and forth a little bit. So it was awesome to go out there and knock him out with that left hook. It was the same left hook I knocked out Anderson Silva with, like a long left hook. In that fight, people expected if we stood up, he was going to be able to knock me out. And if I took him to the ground, I'd finish him on the ground. But to be able to knock him out like that was definitely an awesome feeling, and to win the belt and then eventually go to the UFC. It was cool.
Yeah, you finished him in the first round, 3 minutes. I feel like we don't get fights like that anymore, like these regional fights with big time prospects, turf wars, so to speak. I feel like that's not a thing in the sport.
I think back then, in my eyes, you always wanted to fight the best. And my goal was to get to UFC as fast as possible. And the way to do that was not to fight Joe Schmoes and, guys I know I was going to beat. There was no building up my career. It was train my ass off and fight the best guys in the world. And then that's what's going to get me to the UFC. And now there's a lot of almost a boxing mentality, I think, where, let's get 5 or 6 wins against guys that we kind of almost know we could beat. I feel like it's trending in that direction. And maybe that's a smarter way of doing it, of building people's careers. There's more money in the sport now. There's more eyes on it. You got more people injecting their opinions onto people. And so if that fight was to be happening now, they'd be like, oh, that's too soon. They shouldn't be fighting each other. But that wasn't the mentality back then.
Is there bad blood between you guys?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think there's bad blood. I think there's maybe some awkwardness. It was a big build up. We were both, New Yorkers, and I ended up winning. And he's definitely competitive. I'm super competitive. So I know there's a chip on his shoulder, and that puts a chip on my shoulder.
Was there bad blood back then?
I remember, so somebody emailed him or his gym or something about how Chris Weidman was just gonna just suggesting to him that he better work on his wrestling because he's gonna get outclassed with wrestling. He's a joke or something like that. I had nothing to do with it, but apparently it was they thought I said it or something. So then there was some back and forth, and it was stupid. But there was there was a rivalry between the Serra-Longo guys and Tiger Showman at that time. We were pretty much the 2 biggest MMA teams around. They had tons of fighters because they had so many locations, and we had great fighters. So it was just always, and they had some great fighters too, including obviously Uriah Hall, but they had some other great ones. So there was this rivalry for sure. We weren't cross training. We cross trained with a lot of gyms on Long Island, but the Tiger Showman guys and us, that wasn't a thing. Things have changed, obviously, but at that time.
Who would have thought almost 11 years later, you're fighting out of South Carolina, he's fighting out of Dallas, Texas, no longer with Tiger Showman's, right? Isn't that if I would have told you that 11 years ago, no way you believe me.
It's absolutely insane. I mean, I just think it's such a cool story. Both of us, MMA is, there's a lot of fighters, mixed martial arts, and a lot of fighters come and go. And for us to still be in the game 11 years later and being on the top of the middleweight division and, on our way to the championship again, it's crazy. We both had different careers. He had a great career in his own right, and he obviously still has more he wants to accomplish, and not being, ever fighting for the belt or, winning the championship. And I have goals for myself as well. So it's, I think you're going to see 2 motivated and shaped guys who are going to go after each other.
What do you make of his recent winning streak? He's won 3 in a row. He's coming off a win over a guy very well, Anderson Silva, but obviously not the same Anderson Silva that you beat many moons ago. Are you impressed? Like, do you feel like this narrative out there that he's changed, that he's evolved, that he's much better now? Is it legit, or do you feel like it's a matter of him fighting the right opponent?
I think it's all in his head. I just think all improvement is usually in the head. And if he feels like he's getting better, then that's great. But I think at the end of the day, he's still, a great striker. I don't know how much better of a striker he is now than he was when he was coming up. And his wrestling and jiu-jitsu I think are still something that I'm going to say he definitely has improved on his wrestling and jiu-jitsu since then. But I do feel like the levels between me and him are still pretty, there's a big gap there. I feel like I'm very comparable on the feet with him. I might not be as flashy and can do as many of the techniques that he can do. But as far as like just straight boxing and striking techniques, I think I'm right there with him. I don't think if it was a grappling match, though, it would be that close. I think I would be way superior than him. So I just think and I think it was almost kind of the same then. I was way more green with my striking then, but I still had heavy hands, and that's what won that fight for me. And I had that deception where you have to worry about me taking you down because that could be game over for you. And I'm still gonna, be punching at your face. So I think there's a lot of things that he has to worry about, and that he's very dangerous as well. He was very dangerous back then. There was a lot of me working on the spinning back kicks to the body, spinning back kicks to the head. He's got a right hand, a good jab. He has matured. He's more experienced, so he's going to be way more calm. But we both are going to have that. We're both way more experienced. Going to be more calm than we were. So
sorry to interrupt.
I have a lot of respect for Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
But that being said, I just feel like I'm on a different level than him.
Any pressure whatsoever because the first fight, went your way and you won in 3 minutes? Like, if this goes 3 rounds, it wasn't as impressive as the first time. It's an indictment on where I'm at. Like, do you think about that? I need to do this even quicker than the last time. Do you think about that sort of thing?
No. Because listen, every fight is so different.
Right.
That was 11 years ago. It'd be great to finish them quicker, but that's not like my goal. I'm going to finish them as fast as possible. I'm ready for 15 minutes, hard fight. That being said, my goal is to go out there and make a world-class fighter feel like he's never fought before and just outclass him. That's the goal. And if a finish comes with me doing that, then that's perfect. If it doesn't, if we go 15 minutes, then all credit to him.
What about confidence-wise going into the Akhmedov fight? The whole narrative was you had won in 3 years, 2-fight losing streak. Now you're coming off a win. Weidman's back, and it was an impressive win. And I think that win will age. I don't think you got enough credit for that win and your performance in that fight, if I do say so myself. Do you feel like, there's less pressure, less of a weight, a weight has been lifted off my shoulder? Like, is the mindset any different coming off a win as opposed to that long layoff without a win?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when was the last time a Dagestanian got out grappled? I mean, how often does that happen?
No, I don't know. I thought it was very impressive. And then
he doesn't have a big name, but he's, as far as a matchup for me, he's probably the worst type of matchup. A big, strong wrestler who's tough as hell, and he just,
and then he looked great in his next fight against Tom Breeze.
Yeah, so that was a great fight for me. But that fight, I got super tired in that fight. With COVID during that time, it was hard to really get the proper training in. My weight was really struggling to get down for that fight because the fight before that was 205. And it was over a year or a little less than a year that I hadn't, more than a year that I haven't cut back down to 85 at that point. So I don't think my body was ready to go down. My weight is great this time. My weight, I just checked my notes. It's exactly where I was when I fought Mark Munoz before that fight. And that fight is when I felt literally the best I've ever felt in my career. You put the Anderson Silva fights in there, Machida fight, and Vitor, whatever. Some of my greatest wins. I never felt better than I felt in that octagon against Mark Munoz. And so my weight is exactly where I want it to be. I was able to stay in the gym this whole time, this whole year since that fight. I haven't been out of the gym. That hasn't happened in a while, to be completely honest. And I'm going to prove it in this fight. But when I won the belt, I just I started cutting corners, after the Machida fight. Once I knew I had to beat Anderson Silva again the second time. And then when I fought Machida, everyone just thought they were all flukes, So I'm like, I got to really dominate Machida. That's going to set me in stone and be, great for my legacy. So I worked my ass off for that fight. And that Machida fight was an awesome fight for me. And then starting at the Vitor Belfort fight was when I started like trying to do less instead of doing as much as possible, I started trying to do as least as possible. And I started cutting corners just in everything. My camps got smaller. I would do less workouts. I had injuries, so I'm like, I thought I was in my back of my head. I'm telling myself it's because I want to, keep my body feeling healthy, so do less. But it was just me. I just started cutting corners, and I just don't think my goals were aligned. What was I doing? I already accomplished everything I wanted at that point, so it was hard. It was hard to like really push the way I was pushing. And then, I still was able to get through that Vitor fight and do great on very short camps, and really only training during camps. And it just it was bad. And then obviously I had my losses, and really I feel like right now I just feel renewed, and not really just because I won my last fight against a tough guy. It's the whole move and everything, getting out here, going to a new gym, putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I was very comfortable in Long Island, obviously. I had my own gym. I had all my partners I knew very well. And then here I am in this, random place, and I'm training with guys I've never trained before. And, they have certain expectations, and just leveled me up. It leveled me up, and I've been in great shape for months now, as opposed to just getting in shape. And I know it's going to pay off. I feel I don't want to be the old Chris Weidman, because a lot of people say, oh, you got to go back to like, there's a new Chris Weidman. There's some tactics and things that I did when I was doing great in some of my fights. It really came from my training and my mindset at that time. Now I really know I'm a better fighter now. I have way more experience. I'm cleaner with my techniques. But now I'm going back to working as hard as I possibly can. And not cutting corners. I'm working out Sundays a lot. Like I used to just take off the weekends, and I never did that when I was, crushing myself. But towards the end of, my belt reign and then some of the fights afterwards, it was just, it was me just cutting corners and not realizing it. I kind of was just wanted to rush right back into another fight. I lose. I'm like, oh, I'm better than that. I know my potential, and then I just try to rush back in without really addressing the situations, and I didn't want to really know that truth. But having some time off and time to refresh the mind, I really just feel like I'm in such a good mental space right now, and my body is in a space that it's never been before.
So when you think back, and I appreciate that honesty, when you think back, do you have regrets? Like, do you wish that you didn't cut those corners? Do you tell yourself, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a regret guy, to be honest. I don't really like dwell on things that I didn't do. I feel like it all kind of builds you to who you are, and that's the reality. So you better be okay with that and learn from there. But just like everybody told me when I became champion, like you better don't let it get to your head, and you want to, I still was that blue collar guy. I wasn't buying Rolls Royces and stuff like that. Like it didn't get to my head that way, but it got into my head where like I felt like I was okay. I could still win doing less. And so, I mean, I wish I didn't. I would tell myself, if I could talk to myself at that time, I would tell myself exactly what I'm telling you right now, is that, don't do less, do more. Just keep upping it, and you obviously have to be smart at the same time. But I think it all happened. I think it all happened for a reason. I'm that guy who, feels like, everything happens for a reason. And I'm optimistic person. And I feel like my future is very strong. I have strong goals right now. I want to completely dominate him. And then I want to fight someone else, big name guy. I don't know who it's going to be yet, and dominate him. And then let's see who's fighting for the title next. I want the people to want to see me fight for the title. I'm not going to be begging. It's got to just happen with my work.
You believe in your heart, though, you will be champion again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I will be champion again. I'll defend the belt, and then peace.
That's the plan. That's the goal. One
That's it.
title victory, one defense, and then you're out.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. So about 4 fights.
4 fights. You're 36.
4 fights. And it just, I just know for everybody who's out there who they see me lose. So it's not like they're just pure haters. They've seen me not look great in the cage. And so for them it's hard to take me serious when I say this. But that's the truth. I know where I know the truth. I'm not a cocky guy. I'm not someone who lives off of false reality. I know what I feel in the cage. I know my training. I know the people I train with. I've sparred with some of the best guys in the world, some of the biggest names that we see in the octagon. And I just know where I'm at. It's not like, ask someone who's trained with me if I'm just, a guy who is got a false sense of reality. I'm not that guy at all. I would have hung it up a long time ago if I thought that. I mean, I became the world champion. I did some amazing things. Still at this point, no one's defended the belt longer than me other than Anderson Silva. And so I know where I'm at. The Adesanya fight excites the hell out of me. I would love to get that opportunity, but I have some work to do, and I'm excited to have that opportunity. He's a great matchup for me. So I'm excited. I'm just excited about this whole middleweight division and the kind of this resurgence that I have for the sport and my training. So
yeah, because what's interesting is if you look at the top of the middle division, obviously he's probably going to fight Robert Whittaker next. Izzy has already defeated a lot of the guys who are still at the top. So you go on a run, you're a fresh matchup, a fresh opponent. I would imagine that would be of interest to him. But obviously you have to go on that run and
I gotta earn it. I gotta earn it. I'm not here begging now. I've had some great accomplishments in my career. I've done some great things, and I fought some guys that he's fought and I've done better. I finished the guys he's fought. That being said, I got work to do. Anderson Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, I think that's really it.
Right. And by the way, is it weird to see Anderson now boxing Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? You see that?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. This whole MMA guys boxing is right now after the other night has got me kind of a little sick to my stomach.
Why?
Man, I just feel like that whole Triller event really was. I mean, the commentating on it was just terrible. Oscar De La Hoya. It was just like when you hear commentating during fights, usually it's commentators that really have the utmost respect for the fighters in that ring or that cage, and they're trying to they're there because they love the sport and they want to get other people to love the sport and get other people to love these athletes. And the way they were commentating was like the complete opposite. Like they were kind of on a lot of the athletes that were fighting, like the Frank Mir fight. I don't know if you watched that. Like,
yeah,
it was kind of sad to see the way they were talking about these athletes that are putting their bodies on the line, their heads on the line, and sacrifice so much to get in there. I didn't like that. I just felt like it was super disrespectful, and it took the sport back a step. Boxing, combat sports in general, and then the Askren thing with Logan Paul. I mean, I give credit
Jake
to
Paul.
Ben Askren. With Jake Paul. I give credit to Ben Askren for going in there. I think he was a phenomenal MMA fighter, but he obviously chose Askren for a reason. He really probably one of the worst stand-up fighters probably in our sport. One of them. I mean, there's a couple, maybe 2 or 3 guys who were like, all right, his stand-up never really came along. He was so good at grappling that he didn't really need it. And so to be representing our sport in there, or at least the facade to the general public is that this is MMA versus this YouTuber, in a boxing match where, and Askren's coming off a hip replacement and he's retired. He has really no business in fighting again. And, he's in there to make money. So I'm not one of those guys who think that, Ben Askren's this bum now. Like Ben Askren is an Olympian. He's accomplished so much in mixed martial arts that all these guys should shut their mouth because he is the man. He's someone I've looked up to since wrestling. He's amazing. His personality plus his mindset, his mental mindset is really, really top notch as an athlete. Something a lot of athletes probably look up to with him is the way he's able to break down performance and the right mindset to have. Do you have nail polish on right now?
Oh yeah.
That's very distracting.
Sorry. I addressed this earlier. My daughter painted my nails, and it wasn't like she has some nail polish that like comes off right away under hot water. This is not as easy to take off. And so, you know what?
But hang on, I did see the video where you mentioned that you're a dad,
That's right,
girl dad.
Yeah.
So you're proud of it,
you.
but that was like you did it on accident. But now it's been a couple days now, right? You haven't taken it off.
Well, to break down the fourth wall here, that was late Saturday night. We are recording this. If you must break kayfabe, if you will, we're recording this on a Monday, and so it's only 2 days or less than 2 days later. And you know what, Chris? I'm a busy guy, not top of mind. And can I be honest? I don't mind it. Okay.
You like it. You like it. It matches your shirt. Miles will do the other hand now. Just make it. Or no. This is your new thing, isn't it?
This is yellow, or I'm colorblind. This is something. There is something here. You can't see that.
What is it? Oh, you actually have a color on there. That's white, maybe, or yellow.
It's like an orangey green or something. I don't know.
Well, I love that you got big to go on air and not care, because
hey,
you're a great dad and you're great on the mic, so it works for you. You can pull it off.
If this is big, then the bar for big is pretty low these days, if I'm being honest.
I mean, some people would never do that. So can you not just play with that pencil with your blue fingertips? Like it's getting a little weird.
I don't even know where we were. Oh, Jake Paul, you're very upset about Jake Paul.
I was super so the Jake Paul thing. Now this guy, the way they're talking to Tyron Woodley and oh my gosh, I'm like, I think Cormier said it on Twitter pretty good. Like, your skin starts crawling. Just the lack of respect, and they're going to keep doing it. The more we talk about them, they're
not going away, my man.
Because they're getting more money this way, and so I get it. But they really need to someone needs somebody who's smart and who has decent hands needs to go in there with him and just shut him up.
Well, here's the thing: he's his own promoter, he's his own matchmaker. So best believe they're looking for the fights that they can win. They're not looking to get tested. They're not looking to get punched. That's the difference between. I think the hard time that MMA fans are having with all of this is, we're used to, you get signed by the UFC, you get signed by Bellator, PFL, and there's essentially a guy who tells you this is your next assignment, right? Like someone came to you and said Uriah Hall is next. You can have a say if you have a certain stature, but for the most part, someone's telling you your next assignment. This guy's telling himself his next assignment. So there's a reason why he picked Ben Askren. He literally picked him for a specific reason, because he knew that was the biggest name, who was the most winnable fight. It will continue. And guess what? There's no reason to change from his perspective. He just made plus 1 million pay-per-view buys he just generated. Why would he change this? What urgency is there?
I'm pretty sure that's like more than my second fight with Anderson Silva was right around that.
Does that blow your mind?
Yeah, that blows my mind. That absolutely blows my mind.
And think about how many people probably pirated it as well, because his fan base is a very young, savvy, technologically wise fan base. So it's a crazy thing, but I try not to take it too seriously and get worked up over it. But I can understand why fighters are getting worked up, because they're like, look, I've been training my whole life, I've been preparing, and I'm struggling to make 20 and 20, and this guy's making, God knows what.
I know. I feel like he's at the point where he's ready for he's been training for 3 years. He's ready for the novice Golden Gloves, and he may win a fight and then lose a fight. Like, he's that level of amateur boxer. I think he wouldn't have a chance of winning it. He'd end up getting crushed. But I don't think he's beating any decent professional boxer or any decent pro MMA fighter that actually decent with his hands. He'll have no shot at all. And again, I'm actually, as we're talking now, I'm like just processing it. I'm not thinking about this whole day. It's not bothering me like crazy. Literally, when Askren got knocked out, I was just like off. That whole Triller event, everything, the whole thing was just weird to me. I love Snoop Dogg, but Mario Lopez I love. But there's a lot of the other guys. Is like, who's the guy who was interviewing Askren in the back?
Oh, Pete Davidson.
Yeah. I don't know. Just like, what's he doing? What's he doing there? So I don't know. it was just a weird event, man. It was really like a cringy event that really wasn't like, I don't know. I guess it wasn't great for fighting at all.
So let me ask you this before I let you go. At the same time, Robert Whittaker was defeating the guy,
Yeah.
Kelvin Gastelum. Do you think Whittaker can beat Izzy? This new version
Yeah.
of you do?
I do think that. Yeah, I
Wow.
think he went into that first fight really wild, more wild than I've ever seen him. He was not comfortable. You watch him in this fight, he was just a way more comfortable human being. I mean, this fight he looked amazing. I thought he did great. His leap-in jab to his head kick was just so beautiful. Some of the techniques he was throwing were just so sharp. And to do it against a guy like Kelvin Gastelum, his defense with his footwork, his management of spacing, his covering with the left hands from Gastelum, everything was really he was on. Even with his takedowns where he hit the double unders and right to a nice takedown. He blew me away. I thought he did excellent, and I think he can beat Adesanya.
All right, and perhaps down the line we shall see you versus either Israel Adesanya.
Yeah,
or
I love Whittaker. I love Whittaker. I really don't want to fight him, but we did a podcast together once. And I was like, yeah, this guy's just the man. I can't imagine really standing across the octagon from him. But obviously, if we had to, we will. And it would be an honor. But Adesanya, to me, I would love that fight. I wouldn't be feeling too bad. Punching him.
You don't like Izzy?
No, I don't. It's not that I don't not like him. It's just that we've had like a little weird past too, like at events. He was getting a little chirpy. And
oh, really?
This is like a few years ago. He had put up a video or something.
What was that video? Were you like
me in the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah.
It was like 5 a.m. My wife was outside of it, and I think we're at the event. He's doing a video of me. Yo, you mind if we do a video? We're talking. He's like, yo, one day I'm gonna beat this guy. Ha ha. He's like laughing. I'm like, wait, who are you? This was when he had just had won one fight in the UFC, and whatever. He was all right, but he was definitely drinking a little bit. And then I guess later on that night, we were like in Dunkin' Donuts, and I guess he filmed me. He was being cool with me in there, but then he's filming me saying something. I don't even know what he was saying. I don't remember. But yeah, he's not really like my guy that I'm going to be hanging out with too much, for sure.
Wow. Okay. So there's a bit of a backstory there. That's good for the countdown. That's good when the time comes.
There you go. I want you to narrate that one for me.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. The hair looks great. Everything, your mindset looks great. I mean, I'm excited about this the South Carolina version of Chris Weidman. I saw you talking about
Carolina Chris.
Oh, that is good. Carolina Chris. Are we going with that? Is that a real thing?
I'm still the old American, but hashtag Carolina Chris.
I love that. And you even dared to say that Carolina bagels are better than New York bagels, which blew my mind. I couldn't believe you said that.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, I couldn't believe
blasphemy. Blasphemy. Listen, I love being out here, but as far as pizza and bagels, they have some decent spots. And there's a bunch of Long Island guys who came down here and they opened up some great spots, but you can't compare it to Long Island. Just the competition grows just superior foods, and I would say I missed that. But to be honest, I've been eating pretty healthy, for a while now, and bagels and pizza really aren't on the menu.
Right.
So
yeah, that's true. All right. Well, best of luck, my friend. I look forward to it. A fight for, I'd like to think this is a fight for like the old school Northeast fans, a rematch of a fight that happened many, many moons ago that we didn't think would ever happen again. And so it kind of brings back some nostalgic feelings. Can't wait to see how you look in there. Wish you the best. Thank you as always for the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And just take that nail polish off.
Okay.
Get a second. All right.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.